All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Kyle Miners, and today I will be talking about Xamarin. So, Xamarin is essentially just a platform developed by Microsoft, completely open source, that lets you create a single code base to distribute to multiple operating systems. So, this is really cool because if you've ever worked on app development, usually if you're creating something for mobile, you have to create the Android and then the iOS project separately. So, being able to do it all in one place, I think, is really cool. So, some positive effects of this is obviously less time. It reduces your cost of developing. You can create it a lot quicker. There will be less maintenance on the app throughout its lifetime. If you need to take it down or offline for whatever reason, it's going to be a shorter period because it's a single fix rather than fixing Android and iOS separately. And the framework is compatible with Windows as well. So you have Android, iOS, and Windows. So some of the really cool things about this is it's called a XAML hot reload. So XAML is like the XML of Xamarin. So it's essentially just the modeling language you use to create the UI. And you can actually alter this in real time. So I'll show you in a second with Visual Studio. But it's really nice, so you don't have to create the XML and then render it and see how it looks and go back and forth. You can do it all in real time. It also has support for smartwatches, which is really cool. Android Wear, Apple Watch, so you can create that extension and have your app function on watches. It does also allow for platform-specific functionality, so there are some things that just have to be done, not natively necessarily, but targeting a specific platform. So, for example, right now I'm working on an app where I'm trying to be able to upload pictures. And so the way that your phone gets permission from you to access the camera roll is going to be different in Android and iOS. So you can create an interface and then implement it differently for Android and iOS. And it is named after the tamarin monkey. I've researched this for hours and I still haven't found a good reason for that, but it's a cool feature. So just to give you an idea of how this works, right here, I've got the app up and running in an emulator. So right here, I've got the XAML, which is just like it's like HTML for mobile, or I guess you can use it for web development as well. But in real time, I can come here and change things and see how it looks and add, delete text, change the margin, do it all in real time, which this has been super helpful. My capstone group and I have been working on this app, not this particular one, but it's been really nice to be able to design it in real time rather than going back and forth with the changing the XML and then rendering and changing and rendering over and over again. So this is a super cool feature. And then you can see over here, you have the model service view kind of set up, which is super helpful. Got all the pages right here. This is actually an app I'm working for a nightclub right now. And then down here, you have your separate pages for Android and iOS if you want to use those. It's almost never required, but there are certain things like image uploading and other various things that you have to target the operating system more directly. So there are some things to consider when using Xamarin. While it does provide a way to distribute to multiple operating systems with a single code base, there are definitely some drawbacks because of that. One big one to consider is your overhead. So it's about 3 to 5 megabytes of extra data added to your release build, and then about 20 megabytes added to your debugging build. So if your program or your app is already pretty sizable, then that could be an issue. Performance is never going to be as good with Xamarin as it is on a natively developed app with like Kotlin or I think Swift is iOS. And the biggest problem that we've seen working on Xamarin has been the backend API calls. So because it's kind of interfacing through C# to get to the native languages, there's a lot of problems with compatibility. With backends like Firebase and AWS, the syntax is almost always different. There's not a ton of resources on that, and sometimes it just refuses to work. So that's a definite drawback to using this. The next iteration of Xamarin is called .NET MAUI. I think multiple. And so official support for Xamarin will end on May 4th, but it is being replaced with Maui, which is available now on Visual Studio. Any questions?